Today, I'm here in Battle Creek, Michigan in the Oak Hill Cemetery, about to go on a really cool guided tour of the Seventh-day Adventist history and pioneers who are buried here. That's coming up next.
This is the grave of Sojourner Truth. There were several black Americans who had profound effect on American thought in the 19th century. And it was in connection with abolition of slavery, but it goes beyond that. It goes to the level of what is moral, what is godly, what is truth, what is the way God intends us to be. And so people like Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, we could name a few others, became moral compasses almost in America for those who were willing to listen to them. Now there were some who wouldn't, of course. Sojourner Truth, I have a tract or a pamphlet that I brought. Fortunately, this wasn't with all my other notes. It's too valuable, I keep it separate. So I could find this. I'm sorry I don't have a picture either, except the one that's in here. I came upon this in a bookstore one time years ago, and I've been thrilled to have it ever since. This is the first edition of her, or the narrative of Sojourner Truth, a Northern slave. And so this is her first biographical sketch that was done. There is a picture of her. It's actually the earliest picture. The later pictures are far more familiar and known by people. But if you want to take a look at her as a younger woman, this is a picture of Sojourner Truth. I can't pass this around because it's very fragile, but if you want to look at it, you can lean closer to get a picture of her. But this is a wonderful read. I've read this thing a few times. I've read some other biographies of Sojourner Truth as well. She was an incredibly balanced woman. Let me give you an example that's in this book. You all know about the Millerite movement, right? Sojourner Truth attended a Millerite camp meeting. She describes it in this book on several pages. And she attended at a time when the opposition to the Millerite movement had grown very high, and people were very negative against it. But she was not a crowd follower. She was a thought leader. And what's an example of that? She listened carefully, and she said, these people are sincere. They have something biblically. She says, I'm not convinced on the date. I don't know about the date. So she didn't join the movement as far as the time setting, but she speaks in this tract, and this in 53. No one talked nice about Millerites in 53. She talks nice about the Millerites in this. She rises above the common craziness of our society. And I think if there's one thing that I would like to learn from her, there's a number of things I want to learn. In our current modern environment, where everything is so polarized and we're so quick to attack and judge and condemn, she is not an example of that. We need to follow these better examples, don't you think? We need to be on a different level than where society was. She was, and that's what made her who she was. And it was her Christian faith as well. Some have described her as a Seventh-day Adventist. I wish I could tell you she was a Seventh-day Adventist. I would like to believe that. I'd like that to be true. First off, even if she was, we will never know for sure, because the Battle Creek church, the Dime Tabernacle records, burned in 1922. So there are no records of membership. We do know that she attended the Dime Tabernacle regularly, often. It was a place she often went. John Harvey Kellogg was her physician. She had close interactions with Seventh-day Adventists on temperance and anti-slavery, anti-racism, whatever it might be. Causes of the Adventist Church and her resonated. I've read, though, enough from her family and from things that she's written that I think they have described that she did not become an Adventist because she did not want to limit herself. She wanted to keep herself open for all peoples. And I think that's probably true. I think that's probably the case. But I think I can go this far and be honest as a historian, that if she was going to pick a church to belong to, if she had to pick one, she very well could have. I'm not going to say she would have, but she very well could have picked the Seventh-day Adventist Church because she had very close connections and interactions with the Seventh-day Adventist Church. In fact, a biography of Sojourner Truth was published by, guess what publishing house? Review and Herald. I don't personally have a copy of that. We do have one at the Center for Adventist Research. You can come look at it. Maybe you have one in the village. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
There may be.
I'll have to look.
Yeah. So Sojourner Truth, but just think of the contrast. You know, here you have that, and you have this. I mean, does it get more more obvious? You know, in its contrast. Ellen White's just buried right over here. So I mean, you've got the same. It's almost like a triangle. And what a difference! Notice this right here. Footprints of the Adventist pioneers. She is a stop for us as well as Seventh-day Adventists because of her connections to the Adventist Church. And wherever you find this type of a sign, it by no means is on all the graves that are Adventist, important Adventists, but on many of them, this marker is throughout the cemetery. So if you ever come back, you look for those flags and go look at the stones, you'll find someone who has at least some prominence in the Adventist Church. On the right, we won't go down just a little bit further, is the grave of Samuel Rhodes. Samuel Rhodes was the, can you guys still hear me further back? Samuel Rhodes was the guy who worked with Otis Nickel to develop a prophetic chart, the first Sabbatarian Adventist prophetic chart. And he also was the person, if you were on the tour, who Hiram Edson helped reclaim the ministry when he went out and had questions about his faith and about Adventism. I think this is it, isn't it? Also buried off over in this direction is Stockbridge Howland. And he, if you remember, if you were on the tour again, he is where James and Ellen White lived with him in the early years of their marriage, when their children were being born. And the Nichols they helped raise the kids for a few years while they were traveling.